Cineverb.
Hello, welcome to Cineverb, a podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria, and today I'm joined by David.
Hello.
And Helen Albee Cottingham.
Hello.
And this week we are discussing the 2022 film Crimes of the Future, written and directed by David Cronenberg and starring Lea Seydoux, Kristen Stewart, and Viggo Mortensen. And here is the synopsis. Humans adapt to a synthetic environment with new transformations and mutations. With his partner Caprice, Saul Tenser, celebrity performance artist, publicly showcases the metamorphosis of his organs in an avant-garde? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay.
In
an avant-garde performance. As always, we'll begin with a spoiler-free review, and then after our ratings, we will dive deep into a fleshy, full spoiler discussion. Okay. So initial impressions. I guess I'll start first, and then I'll pass it to David, and then we'll have Helen give her impressions, because I kind of know a little bit about her takes. And I think I'm more in the middle. Well, I don't know. Well, I guess, okay, so my initial takes of this movie, I liked it way more than I thought I was going to like it, because I liked Videodrome, but it felt like very cold and distant and unsatisfying in a emotional way. But the themes were ingenious. And I think in this film, maybe it's just how weird and quirky, well, not even quirky, but just strange. And like the word I kept thinking about, like just thinking about the movie since I watched it, is like it has this weird, like wet, bloody, kind of fleshy, subterranean feel that I really, really enjoyed. Like it kind of reminded me of the feeling of Children of Men, like this almost like doomed kind of future. And I liked how all the things that I think people could dislike about this movie supported that theme and that feeling for me that made me enjoy the movie, because everyone was so strange. And so yeah, I think that's my just a little brief initial impressions. What were your initial takes, David?
Yeah, I think I told you about my theater experience, or just kind of it just happened that I was feeling anxious the day that I went and saw it, and I feel like that really colored the movie just enhanced my anxiety so much, just because of I don't know, I probably if I saw it again, I would feel different about it, but yeah, it's just my whole time I was watching it, I was feeling very like nauseous and just like. Yeah, like anxious and nauseous, and the acting adds to that. You know, it's just like because especially like Kristen Stewart and the guy who plays the other cataloger, like they're extremely like anxious in their of how they're acting, and so that just added to my feeling. And then you add the gore to that, and it's like it was gave me a really strong impression the first time I saw it, I guess. Might change, but yeah, I really liked it, even though it made me feel bad. So that's my first impression.
So about you feeling grossed out by it, do you think that was just a stress thing, or was it like the imagery that was presented that made you feel gross?
Yeah, it was definitely both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think even if I was feeling great and having a great day, still would have, because like we watch Videodrome and, it's from the 80s. It's obviously the special effects are not as advanced as they are now, so it's a little campy, whatever. But like in this movie, I think because the tone was so dark and serious for most of the movie, and the music really added to that a lot, and so the gore just came across much more just real and putrid, and especially. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but the final gore scene, surgery, especially because of the subject, was very unsettling. So I think even more than most Cronenberg movies, it was very an unsettling experience.
Awesome. And what were your initial impressions, Helen?
Well, now I'm proud of myself that it didn't make me anxious because there was a lot in this that would have triggered me as well. I guess I was doing really well that day.
Just having a good day.
Because I'm sitting there thinking, like, I have been in so many movies where I am just feeling horrible and feeling triggered by the movie, and it just escalates and escalates. And I think the movie's way more intense than it actually was just because of how I was feeling physically that day. Yeah, so I relate in a big way.
That's how I was, for sure.
Yeah, but I was fine somehow with this. So good job me, I guess. But this was my first Cronenberg ever. And this feels like a very weird place for me to start. And I'm not sure I like him based on this. Yeah, I love sci-fi, and I like sci-fi horror, but I feel like I like it when the horror is in service of the sci-fi instead of the sci-fi being in service of the horror, and that seems to be this movie's vibe. And just the text seemed really preposterous and annoying to me. I just found some things funny that I think were supposed to be taken seriously, and some things that were just there to be gross and were completely impractical. Like, I just didn't have any patience for it. I couldn't suspend my disbelief in a way I think I was supposed to. Yeah. And I don't know if that's like an ongoing thing with Cronenberg, that he has like the nasty technology that's slimy and super. Yeah. So if that's like a running theme of his, then I may not like his other movies also. But I loved the sci-fi concept at the core of this movie. I just think it was kind of clunkily presented, and the focus was more the gross out spectacle nastiness and less of the philosophical thoughts, and so that kind of annoyed me. And that's my general take.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it definitely, like, compared to other Cronenberg movies, I think it's way more of a balanced movie than most Cronenberg movies. Like, Videodrome. Well, I'd say Videodrome is pretty balanced, kind of like this, but like a lot of, like, I watched Existence with a Z. That it was his last original script before this movie, and it came out in 1999, and it's got a lot of the similar, like, fleshy technology, kind of like biology mixed with technology stuff in this movie, and I mean, it's more of like kind of like a trippy kind of plot, but it's like basically the only good idea in Existence is like the fleshy biology. It's cool. I think it was the first movie that he really did that. And so this movie takes that and then also adds some, I thought, interesting, like, philosophy to it, and builds an entire world that's super interesting. And I could have watched an entire miniseries or like TV show about this world. I was super interested in it. And I think I get that there some parts were funny, but I think it was intentional. I don't know, based on the other Cronenberg stuff that I've seen, like, he's good at that. I think, like, mixing, like, it's certain things are supposed to be horrifying, but then other things are supposed to be funny. Because I don't know, it's hard to describe, but like the way he views body horror is I was watching an interview where he was like, I never think of it as horror or like horrifying. Like, he thinks of it, he was like, I would call it like body beautiful. Cause like he thinks that the body is like really, like, he's an atheist. He's like very focused on, his philosophy is like the body is everything. Like, everything can be explained from the body. He was actually like a biology major in college, and he was like going to go into that before filmmaking because he was really interested in that. And so that's his whole philosophy, is like, we have to understand the body to understand ourselves and life, and like that's all we are. And so I don't know. There's a lot more to this movie about like evolution and like us resisting kind of progress and
that's the
natural.
Parts I liked. Yeah, that's what I liked.
Yes. So there was some good world building sci-fi, but there was also I guess some people would say like gratuitous nudity or gore, but it is very. Those are just kind of like Cronenberg trademarks that I feel like you just come to expect in his movies.
Yeah, and
he really likes bodies.
Yeah,
It's all about the body.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I mean, and with the unintentional or intentional funny, I mean, I was the only person in the theater that seemed to be stifling, choking back laughter. I think everyone else at our screening was watching it like with serious reverence. And I was straight up giggling, like fighting not to laugh loudly at certain things.
I mean, yeah.
So
there's a
I
lot
felt
of,
like I was being very disrespectful, but yeah.
No, like you know how Anthony, when we talked about Videodrome, like that was something that I didn't remember, but when I rewatched it, I was like, Videodrome is actually really funny. Like David Cronenberg has a sense of humor that he like puts in there that people don't think of him as being a comedy director at all, but he actually does. I like Videodrome. I found really funny on rewatching, and like this, I noticed the humor more. Like this, especially obviously the scenes with Kirsten Stewart and that other actor that I need to say his name.
Vigo? No, the other actor.
Well, yeah, some of those scenes were funny, but like the two, like her and that other guy that they're the archivists kind of the body parts. They were
so
both
unhinged.
Hilarious. Like, yeah, they were hilarious. They were playing it up. They were chewing the scenery. They were great. Yeah, so there's definitely part of this movie is the comedy for sure.
That's interesting. So that whole tonal thing just did not work for you, Helen.
Well, I just couldn't tell if it was just me not taking the movie seriously, and I just couldn't tell if it was intentional or not. And just based on the crowd with us in the theater, they were all stony silent, serious-faced, and I felt like I was making them tense by laughing, so I was trying to hide it. And so I was like, this must not be intentional. It must just be me just giggling every time Vigo makes a sound, you know? Like, because I literally laughed every single time. Because it seemed super funny, but...
It is, I'll agree with you that was funny, but I have to think that was intentional. I don't know. I mean, it was also a little bit like unsettling, but like also in a way that you had to kind of, well, at least for me, because I was feeling anxious by the movie. Like I was relieved every time there was something like that, like a funny scene or like just something ridiculous like that. It was nice to be able to laugh in the midst of this really grim movie.
Well, talking about that, like the performances, to dig into that a little bit, I really loved Kristen Stewart, and I think she is probably the person with the most divisive reaction that people are getting from this movie. Like you were saying, Helen, like some people like you laugh, some people are like, I was looking at reviews and some people are like, this is the worst acting she's ever done in her career, because it goes.
And other people are saying it's the best.
Yeah, and I think I don't think it's her best, because I think probably Spencer is probably her best, but I loved it. I loved how committed and weird she got. Like it kind of reminded me of, like, I don't know. It's just so weird how I see like her career trajectory and like Pattinson's as like awesomely similar. Like the way that they are choosing these like just supremely weird roles that just push them into like weird boundaries and stuff. So like they've
both been in Cronenberg movies now.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I heard, like, I read something where Cronenberg wants to get them together for his next movie or something. That I think it might be based on a book. He wrote a book about like something about one of them dying, and they were like a married couple or something, and then obviously some sort of body horror ensues. But yeah, I really like the performances, and even like Vigo. Like I haven't really seen Vigo in a lot of stuff other than like the Lord of the Rings, and I forget how like committed and method he is as a performer. And like Helen was saying with his cackling, gagging sounds, and like like I felt so bad for him as like an actor, like to have to do, like my throat started hurting like 10 minutes into the movie just because it was so consistent and constant. But that's something else that I heard in a interview, that Cronenberg lets his actors like decide all his all their character traits, and he doesn't tell them like to change or alter something unless it's like ruins the narrative in some sort of way. So like all that cackling was just Vigo's idea, and then Kristen doing what she did to him in that room was all just her on the spot coming up with it. And then same thing with Leia Sadu, who I also really loved Leia's performance. She kind of plays like the solid cornerstone of the whole film, in my opinion, and I think she really
she seemed
operates.
like the only sane person.
Yeah.
I mean, but at the same time, she is a little insane. I mean, everyone in this movie is a little insane, even her, especially her in some aspects.
Most sane.
She's a little cray-cray.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But yeah, there's a lot that we need to dig into the spoilers. So I just wanted to do like a quick wrap up of like the technical stuff. I already talked about the performances. Do you want to bring up another technical thing, David or Helen, that y'all enjoyed or didn't enjoy?
I mean, I'm generally a fan of practical effects. I'm always happy to see them when I see them. That was cool. I don't know. I've seen other movies with practical effects that impressed me more, but yeah.
I love the fleshy technology that he does in his movies. So like all those machines and stuff. Like I love that. The music was like by the guy that he collaborates with on basically all of his movies, Howard Shore. And I feel like the music definitely was next level for, you know how we talked about like with Videodrome, like kind of the music was sort of like, like it was serviceable, but it wasn't anything super special. And I feel like that's a lot of Cronenberg movies. Like it's just there to add a little bit of atmosphere. But I feel like in this movie, it went a little bit above and beyond and kind of like added to that really ominous mood. I just noticed it. I rarely notice music, but I noticed it in this movie. So,
but yeah, and then the visuals I really liked. Like I think, like I normally don't like digital looking films, but I really enjoyed the digital look of this film, and just the cinematography, the lighting. And I think like even like his composition work here, I think is so like at such a higher level than what I saw in Videodrome. And it felt very concise and specific, and I really liked like especially how he managed, the scenes where we see surgery and all kinds of operations. I like the choices he made on where to put the camera to like highlight those moments. That was another thing I really liked. And then I guess the narrative I think is like it's like the strongest point, but it's also the weakest point because like Helen was saying, like the ideas are cool and they're there, but there's like something missing. And like for me, there's like still that emotional thing missing. And there's like a couple plot holes, or not plot holes, but like plot hangups that I would like to get into because they're kind of confusing and like don't really make sense.
There's definitely I think the ending especially, I think people need to go into it knowing that it's not going to resolve all of your questions and you're not going to get a nice neat packaged ending. It's definitely that's his thing that he, like in a lot of his movies, it sometimes feels like there could be another 20 or 30 minutes that could have been on the movie where it kind of packaged it up nice and neat, but that's just something that he does. I think it's just a writing style of his that he likes to end it before everything is resolved and like answered. So I just 2 nights ago, I watched a completely different style, one of his movies, Eastern Promises, which also has Viggo Mortensen in it. It's about like gangsters in London, like Russian gangsters in London, and it's kind of a gangster movie, but totally different tone. But it's the same thing. Like the ending is exactly the same. Where I'm like, that's where it ends. Like, oh man, like it could have. I mean, it was a good scene at the ending, but it could have gone on for another like 30 minutes just to resolve everything. But I just feel like and same for Videodrome. But I feel like he likes to do that. Just to he builds a world and like gives you enough stuff to ponder and like questions to ask, and then he just leaves you with it to kind of ponder it on your own rather than giving you everything. And I don't know, I think I love questions and pondering
ideas, but I do think it's important to have a satisfying ending. Because, like, I'm all about endings, so...
I'll say I was super satisfied by the last scene. Like, I think it's, like, Viggo Mortensen, just, his acting just, like, tied it
the
up.
imagery.
Real, excellent acting. Like, just from facial expressions, like, I understood everything. Like, it was just, I thought it was a really good ending scene, but it definitely doesn't, like, resolve everything in the plot.
Yeah. All right. So, Helen, what would you rate this movie? And did you have any other final statements that you would want to say before your rating?
No, I don't have anything else to say. And I think I'm feeling really mean now at the rating I was going to give it. Because I was just not impressed. And I feel like I should have been. I feel like everybody's like, Cronenberg's such a genius. You will be so impressed. I'm so excited for you to get to see this for the first time. And I'm like, okay, I wanted to give it like a 5.5, but maybe I'll bump it up to a 6.
It's very specific.
Yeah,
we're doing decimals now.
No, honestly, like I feel like the take on this movie specifically is very, very mixed. Like I've seen a lot of people hating on it. Like all the podcasts that I listen to, I think the highest rating I've heard is a 7 out of 10 from like I listen to like 4 or 5 film podcasts. So
oh wow,
yeah.
Yeah, I guess reading around on Letterboxd, maybe the friends of mine are slightly different than yours, but they were all just raving about it. I couldn't find a bad review of it, and I was just like, I don't vibe with y'all, but yeah.
I was reading through the Rotten Tomatoes audience reviews, and they are hilarious. It's a mix between like 5-star, really deeply written like review. Oh my goodness, like Cronenberg's back in his blah 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 blah. And then there's like half-star reviews that's just like, I fell asleep halfway through, but at least there were boobs in it. It's just like ridiculous mix of like stupid reviews. So yeah, and people like, I was reading something where people just randomly picked a movie and walked into this one, and I was like, oh my god, this would be the worst movie for like grandma to just like randomly walk into and just start watching, because it's a lot.
We had a grandpa in ours that just fell asleep the whole movie.
Yeah, snored loudly the whole movie. And there was a bunch of kids that came in, like young kids that obviously snuck into the movie, and then like 2 or 3 of them, but I don't think the whole cohort of them walked back out after the beginning scene. And I was like, they're traumatized.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's weird. People treat movies weirdly, like movie theaters. Strange.
Yeah. So what would you rate it out of 10, David? And do you have any final statements about it?
I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I was like debating between a 7 and an 8, but like I would watch it again like very readily. Like I would watch it again tomorrow, because I feel like I was telling you, I get so overwhelmed with like the aesthetic of a movie that sometimes the plot and stuff just kind of goes over my head really easily. Yeah. So I would watch it again just to pay attention to like the world building and the plot. Now that I know what happens, but I know what to expect. So yeah, I would definitely watch it again to get more out of it. I feel like it has enough in it that it's worth repeat viewing. So yeah.
Awesome.
8 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. I really want to watch it again too. I think it's a good movie, so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I did think briefly to give it an 8 out of 10, but since my rating system's all different, everything's bumping down a point. So yeah, 7 out of 10. Yeah. I think it's a really good movie. I think anyone who likes weird, subterranean, sickly, futuristic kind of environments, and then anyone who's grossed out by surgeries and stuff like that, I think you wouldn't, or not if you're grossed out, but if you like seeing that kind of gross out stuff, you would have a good time. And that was something, well, I'll talk about that in the spoilers. I was going to bring up something about that. But, yeah, so 7 out of 10. And then, yeah, I'd recommend it to all the Cronin heads, or Cronin whatever they're called.
I heard someone refer to them as Cronin babies, but I don't know if that's true.
That works.
Oh my Okay. So, David, you're a Cronin baby.
I'm a Cronin baby for sure.
Awesome. Okay, so that's going to conclude our review portion of Crimes of the Future. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now. And while you do that, don't forget to subscribe or leave a review or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us at cineverm@yahoo.com. And you can also check out our snazzy website, cineverm.com, where we have written reviews. And speaking of reviews, check out my personal YouTube channel, A Lonely Critic, where I do shorter solo reviews. And lastly, check out Movies for Decades podcast, where Helen and her brothers Colin and John discuss films through the decades. But okay, now to the spoilers. Who wants to start?
Where do we start?
I guess I want to start with the things. I kind of want to start with the end, because I feel like this is where the narrative kind of falls apart. Is like the whole cop subplot kind of thing going on.
I hated it.
So why did you dislike it?
Yeah,
Because it felt cheap. Like, it was just there for exhibition. It was just there for world building. And it was so stark. Like, things would happen that were nuanced and interesting. And then we would cut to the shipyard. And literally the two cops would just be like, okay, so here's what just happened in the movie earlier. Let me re-explain to you, the viewer, everything that just happened. Let me explain some key points about the world. Okay, like, obviously these people would already know these things and have had this conversation before, and it was just there for us, the audience. And it felt very transparently, obviously that way. And I was just like, cut the whole secret agent thing out of this movie. Like, let me learn this stuff some other way that isn't so in my face basic. Yeah. It's really too bad, because I really loved the actor that played the supervisor. Like the cop that was over Vigo that kept checking in with him. And it's like, that's so unfair that this like talented, interesting looking like actor is relegated to just this exhibition dump voice box, and he doesn't get to have a character or really be a person. It annoyed me. All of that annoyed me deeply.
I can understand. Yeah, I mean, I really like the just the set of the shipyards, like, or I don't know if it was a set or a real location, but like I love that place. Like every time they went there, I kind of liked it just because of the look of it. It was almost like a little rest, like time in between intense scenes. Like every time he would go there and meet the guy, and it's like this really moody, rusty ships in the background. Like I love the feel of it. But I agree. I do agree that with the criticism that it was a very exposition dump, that character. Honestly, I think he was one of the weaker actors in the movie, but maybe it's just because of the lines that he had.
He just was given nothing.
Yeah. But it would have been nice if he had been a character that did things in the movie. I mean, it was implied that he did things behind the scenes and was involved. But
or
I didn't hate it.
Or if he had like challenged Vigo's character or set up because that's what I thought was going to happen, was once Vigo was like I don't want to do this anymore, that he would be like, you don't have an option, or like we're gonna or like, you know, like there was some sort of double crossing, because that's what I thought was going to start happening. Like people were, I don't know, they were going to get taken, or the whole operation was going to collapse or whatever, that they like this, because I guess they were setting up like a sting because he was undercover for so long. I don't know.
But it's with Cronenberg, I feel like you have to drop all of those complex plot expectations and just like he's kind of like, you know, I feel like his only role is to give us kind of a picture into the government of these days and in the world building, just like, okay, like he represents the government's position, like, you know, evolution bad. Like we do not like evolution. They're trying to stop it and hide it and stop people from thinking about it or knowing about it. And so he just represented a faction in this world.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much,
and I object to that whole thing where it's like, I don't think in a real situation the government would be objecting to this, I feel like they would be funding it. They would be causing it. And the people who would be trying to kill these people would be some kind of religious zealots or some kind of subculture that thinks that they're freaks or monsters, like more similar to the mother character. And she could be like part of a whole cult. And that would make more sense than the government wants to eliminate these mutant people. And that really bothered me also. I was like, why is the government not like super excited that they have this method to eliminate all this toxic waste in the world? Like, that doesn't sound like a government's.
Well, I don't know. I think the government's eternally corrupt. So like even like, I mean, right now the current government has no incentive to eliminate toxic waste. And even if it were to be profitable, I don't think they would if it wasn't the most profitable thing. But I think what he was trying to say was more of a, like the class, because like this is something someone brought up in a review that I was listening to, where it's like, it was almost like a little mini metaphor of like the healthcare system. Like all these poor people can't perform surgeries to get things removed from their bodies. So it's like this lower class. And then a lot of the lower class are disgusted by it, which is like the mother who's like, I don't want a child like this, or I don't want to be around people like this because they're freaks. And then it subjugates the people who can't be like pristine, pure humans. It makes them look off, almost like freaks of nature or something. And then since the organs up to where we begin to realize that this kid can like eat plastic and all that kind of stuff, they keep saying like all these organs have no use or purpose or whatever. They're just like there. So yeah. But
that makes
I
sense.
guess I was gonna ask you, David, like, what did you think about like the whole plastic eating thing? Because like I thought that was like the most genius concept and idea of this film.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I mean, I love that the first disgusting scene of just the boy just sitting down in his nasty bathroom, the toilet. Oh, and I love the concept, you know, is just that humans don't get infection anymore. Like that's one of the things to go along with pain. And so because there's no infection, I love that they followed through with that idea, like in a sci-fi way. And it's just like, well, yeah, like no one would clean anything. Like no one would care. You know, it's like the houses, all the indoor areas are just disgusting. The toilet in that scene was just obviously had not been cleaned in like years. You know, everything is nasty and disgusting, but it completely makes sense. Like there's scenes where flies are just buzzing around. I love that they added little details like that, you know, to the world building. But yeah, he just I like that first disgusting scene of him eating the trash can and just like his acidic saliva coming out of his mouth, dripping out of his mouth. Like that was good. Oh my god. Yeah. And then
it made that trash can weirdly look good.
Yeah, that's what I was
a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, it was like it kind of looked like just a big chocolate bar.
Like it was cream filled. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh.
But I really like the overall theme, I guess, to connect to that is just I feel like the whole movie is more than like a political thing. Like the way I read it was just it's more of a personal thing of how different people react to change. And like, you know, I don't know. That's the main thing I read from the movie, like on a personal level, is how different people react to change and how some people resist it. And like some people go so far as to, you know, build, I guess on a societal level, like, you know, this society is like building complex devices to make it easier to not change and to resist change. Like it was just, I thought it was an interesting, just whatever, meditation on how we resist change. And then I loved how the ending resolved that, in that it's like the relief that comes with the main character finally just not resisting change and just going with it. And just the immense relief that you see on his face and the realization. Like, I thought that was so cool. Just the overall theme. But yeah, sorry. That's a little side tangent, but.
The plastic eating was my favorite part of the whole movie. That was the core sci-fi concept that I was like, this is good, this is interesting, this is what I want the whole thing to be about, digging into like all those people that were doing surgeries on themselves and making the purple chocolate bars.
I love that.
Yeah, like I really wanted to see more about their deal and more. I kind of wish there was a prequel about them.
Yeah.
Because they were my favorite part and the most interesting part. And, like, what a genius sci-fi. Like, pitch the movie to me as people are evolving to be able to digest plastic, and here's a sci-fi world dealing with the implications of that. I would be like, sign me up. That sounds like the best movie ever.
And Helen, did you
But
get
it
that?
was just, did I get what?
Did you? Because like when I was watching it, I felt like the people who could digest plastic couldn't digest or eat anything else. Did you read that?
Yeah, I don't think they could eat any other food. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think that is like another layer of brilliance, that it's like a limitation, you know? And then like, I don't know. I do wish we got more plastic eating scenes. Like I would have loved like seeing someone eat more plastic objects. But we just got that trash bin. But yeah.
Yeah,
then,
yeah. Like people like hanging out at, it could have been more of the poverty angle, hanging out at like landfills and just picking stuff out and snacking down. That would have been so cool.
Oh my God.
That's the kind of gross, nasty body horror that I would be more interested in than like hours and hours of erotic surgeries. But I guess that's Cronenberg's kink and not mine.
Yeah, that's more of Cronenberg's. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about your particular kink.
Because they're kind of like separate ideas. Because the plastic doesn't really relate to besides the organs that are shifting and changing, like that being the purpose of the surgery. But like they feel like two completely disparate elements. I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, like kind of, I wish that the movie had shown more different examples of how humans are evolving, because I feel like I don't know. The vibe I got from the movie was that wasn't like supposed to be the only way that humans were evolving. That was just like one example of how humans were evolving. But the problem was that all the movie showed us was that. Like that was the main example that it showed us. But I feel like I imagined that there were a bunch of different ways that humans were evolving, and that was just one of them. And that little cult had figured out like, whoa, this is like an actually great, this is a great side effect of all this evolution that's happening. But then you have the other art cult that's just like making art out of it. And so they could have shown more angles on it. I feel like there would have been way more, because humans interpret things in so many different ways. There would have been, like religious, like, how do religious people interpret this happening? And, I don't know. Yeah, it could have been shown more.
Interesting.
But I just feel like the movie was more trying to just, like, in general, like, talk about human evolution and, like, the body evolving in different ways, and how people were dealing, how different personalities would deal with that. Yeah. And I like how the main character is very in the middle, like maybe that's why the whole police, him being an undercover guy, is important, because it put him in the middle, it put him like he was in a very ambiguous place of how it seemed like he was rejecting it, because that's why he wanted his extra organs removed. Like he wasn't on board with the evolution. He was showing his like rejection of it. But then, as it goes along, he starts to get the other side of it, that it could be a good thing. And then, the end is and I love that his name is Saul. And I didn't realize this or think about this until after the movie. But like the fact that his name is Saul is very pertinent, because he's like in the biblical character of Saul, who starts out like persecuting the Christians, persecuting this small cult of people. And then eventually having the road to Damascus moment that completely converts him. And that's like the end of this movie. And I thought that was so cool. I love Cronenberg. Like his names are always like purposeful. Like Saul Tenser, like the whole movie, he's very like, he's tense. Maybe this is corny, but like his body is tense, and that's why he's in pain, because he's resisting the change. And then in the very last moment, like the look of complete relaxation and relief on his face, it's like he's finally untensed.
That was a beautiful
Untenser.
moment.
Yeah.
Saul Relaxer.
He is now Paul Relief. Yeah.
Oh my God. I loved how that
Yeah.
looked though, the black and white imagery and
Yes.
just the framing of that where it's like it kind of reminded me of that God, I forgot the name of the movie, but it was like that French, maybe it was French. I don't know. It was a
Joan of
lady.
Arc.
Yeah, shaved head. Yeah.
Yeah,
It gave me
that's
that
true. I didn't think
very
about
strong aesthetic. Like the way his head is like leaning to the left and it's almost like
that.
a
Yeah.
split kind of framing that he's doing with that.
And
Well,
then
I was
black and white. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Helen, what did you think about the whole art scene that they were doing and performing in?
That I found confusing and tedious. But some parts of it were very, very cool, and it definitely, I just feel like it was overemphasized. But it did seem really genius. Like, of course, people would do this, that they would, if you don't feel pain anymore, then you would start to modify your body in really gross, radical ways.
Yeah.
Like the plastic surgery performance artist made a lot of sense to me, like how she had her face mutilated in public, and she had a whole group of people that all would sit and mutilate their faces together, like that kind of stuff. And yeah, and the surgeries and the removing of the organs and how, like, thirsty everybody was for that, I kind of didn't understand. Like, I could see this being like, yeah, like one person's really into this and this is their shtick and this is Vigo and, you know, his girlfriend or whatever she was to him's shtick, you know, but that it seemed like there were other people that also did that and it was kind of a thing. Like, surgeries are a thing that we're all as a culture really into, like how excited they were that they had that autopsy machine. Like, ooh, like that's like the coolest, sexiest piece of tech a person could own is an autopsy machine. And it's like, okay, so this is a culture-wide kink for some reason, and I just didn't follow. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think because the movie was so claustrophobic on this small a subculture, and then like it was kind of confused. It was confusing. Like, okay, is this how the entire world is, or is this just this group of people?
This art scene in this city, yeah,
it could have been a little more clear on that, but I'll just interpret it as this was this weird subculture of artists, and you know how like people like that in a subculture just kind of like think that their world is the entire world. I think that's I'll interpret it that way to make more sense of it. Like they just, you know, whatever. They were trapped in their little subculture, and that's all we got to see is this weird performance art culture.
Yeah. I actually, I think that was, besides the plastic eating idea and concept, I think I really loved the whole performance art side of this. Maybe just because I like seeing artists do art stuff, even if it's weird and doesn't make any sense. But also like all the like surgical stuff and like the body horror things that we see here, I like really related to, because I've spent a lot of time seeing bodies being cut up and like especially like cadavers and stuff, and it just felt very authentic to how, like, you know, like incisions and cuts are like, they look just like that. Like it's just the skin kind of peels open and that's it. And it's not a big deal, but then it's also very strange. Like somehow, like in our psyche, like we understand when another person is being like mutilated in some sort of way. Like it just like triggers a response, you know? Like I don't know if that happens in other animals. Like if another animal sees another hurt or dying animal, if they immediately I don't know what reaction it would trigger. But I feel like in humans it is very inherent, and that's why body horror works, or like any sort of horror. But yeah, so I loved all that art stuff, especially the like ear person and how they were like criticizing
the ear guy.
him. Yeah, they were like,
yeah, that was a really cool scene. I love dance in anything, so I was happy for a dance break in the movie.
A dance break. Yeah. I liked the whole perform. I've always felt like, this is weird, but maybe it added to my nauseous feeling is like, I've always been weirdly like afraid of performance art. This is a weird thing, but I have like a performance art like phobia. I think it's because like the performance art that I've heard about or seen, it's always, you know, they're always trying to like push the boundaries. So it's always kind of like, gross stuff and like stuff that you're just like, why is a person doing this to themselves, especially like live in public surrounded by people. So it is like a really weird, it's a weird art form. And so I guess I had that bias coming in that like, yeah, that just added to the themes of this, the body horror of this movie. It's like these people that will just do this stuff to their bodies just for a temporary performance in front of a few people. Like, I think that's so weird, you know, like, I don't know. It's not even recording it. It's just like they're just, it's a temporary performance, you know, it's like theater and then it's over. It's really weird.
I was going to ask you, Helen, like, have you ever seen like any strange performative art in your time?
I have. Yeah. Do y'all know what Buto is? It's a form of dance that was created by Japanese after the Hiroshima. About the bombing. So they like get almost completely naked and like paint themselves white and move in these really grotesque like alien ways. And I watched a bunch of videos of that for a anthropology class, and then some people at my school like put together a Buto troupe, and they would like, it was really creepy. They would like they're these powdered white people that are kind of writhing on the ground, and it's an art form, it's a dance form. I guess I have seen stuff like that. I did go to a pretty weird college. Yeah, I guess it doesn't creep me out or freak me out. I think it honestly is less scary than theater because you can just improvise with a lot of avant-garde, underground, outsider art kind of stuff. Yeah. It's like supposed to be ugly and weird and awkward, and it's supposed to feel unrehearsed, and it seems way scarier to like have something precisely choreographed that you have to have memorized, and then if you screw it up, it screws everything up. Whereas, like, if you're performing on a street corner or in a basement and it's all improvised anyway, then that seems way less scary and intimidating to me somehow. And I mean, my brother does, like, noise music and stuff. He played the theremin in, like, a improvised show one time. So, yeah, I guess I'm pretty exposed to that world. And it's honestly less intimidating to me than the real theater world. Like, oh my God, you have to memorize Shakespeare and then remember it in front of a bunch of people? That's horrifying. Yeah. Like, stand up and, you know, like, improvise some dance steps and make a bunch of creepy faces and then bow and people applaud for you to weird theremin music. Yeah, I'll go do that right now. It sounds fine.
Yeah, I imagine with the weird stuff, you would enter a flow state where you're just, like, subconsciously being weird. Where, the Shakespeare thing, you always have to be present, and that would become very annoying.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm probably, like, really being disrespectful to avant-garde art. Like, I'm sure it's also very rehearsed and very precise and very emotional. But, I mean, I also feel like it's easy to make fun of and fake. I don't know.
I think it's my social anxiety because I like the controlled aspect of theater, but, like, I feel like most performance art is... It seems like all the performance art I've been exposed to, it's meant to make people uncomfortable. Like, that is most of the... whatever, you know. And so like people doing that live or around a crowd and like knowing that that's their main motivation to like disturb the people around them, like
the tension.
I don't like that. But it definitely contributes to this movie, like it's a horror movie, it's a body horror movie, so like all of my connotations of performance art just added to my my uncomfortableness at this movie.
And it does seem like this kind of subculture would absolutely develop in this kind of a society.
I was gonna ask you about what you think about the bed, like the like half walnut fleshy bed thingy that he slept in.
I love that, man. The tech was so cool. I especially like the chair for some reason. Like ever since I saw the first trailer for the movie, the chair, the eating chair, is just so disturbing to me. It's like the way Viggo Mortensen really sells it, like just how uncomfortable he looks, and it seems like the chair is making him more uncomfortable and not really helping him eat. And every mouthful just looks so unnatural and just looks so painful. And yeah, I love that. I loved every scene where he was in the chair
I
trying to
am
just
the opposite.
painfully eat. Oh, okay.
This is
What did
one
you
of
think?
the things that I was laughing so hard at.
Oh, okay.
Every time that stupid chair was on the screen, I was choking back uproarious laughter because it was the most impractical thing. Like, how does this help anyone be more comfortable when they're eating? Like, here's a chair that looks like bones. And it shakes you around. I don't want to be shaken around while I'm eating. Like, how does this optimize literally anyone ever? Like, I just thought it was the stupidest thing, and I was laughing every second it was on the screen. It felt not visceral at all.
Maybe that was the point. I mean, yeah, it is like the point is like, wow, it's so dumb. Like these people are just making it worse for themselves. Like, what are they doing? Yeah, like I guess we're supposed to sort of feel that way eventually. It's like, wow, this is so unnatural.
I mean, the bed made sense. Like, okay, this is a thing that optimizes your sleep. It rocks you around, so instead of you tossing, it like anticipates your need to toss and tosses you for you. And it has those weird sticky looking hands that I guess might hug you and caress you and like make you feel comforted in your sleep, sort of womb like. But the chair made no freaking sense. It was no one wants to eat like that. Like have a bone chair feed you baby food. Doesn't that sound great? Don't you want to pay money for something like that? No. Like that thing,
I imagine I also imagine that all these things were like super expensive. I just, for some reason, that's the vibe I got, that these things were like luxury products, that only a few people got to get because they were just super expensive, but also very impractical. Kind of like the equivalent of like Apple products, when they release something new and it's like, wow, this doesn't really add anything to my experience, or kind of makes things less convenient, but there's a bunch of people that are going to pay premium for it. Yeah.
The thing
I
wonder,
the breakfaster.
Horrifying.
the thing I wonder about that chair is if it was like motorized internally, or if like people offset or like off camera were just like jolting him around like randomly,
or
like,
the actor himself had to shake himself around.
Yeah. So, oh my god, if he had to shake himself around, that would be insane. He deserves an Oscar.
Yeah, that I couldn't stop laughing at that stupid chair.
I've got a question semi-related to that. Okay, like asking you guys. So, like, how did you interpret whether Viggo Mortensen's character was experiencing pain or not? Because throughout the movie, he seemed like he was in pain. Like the bed, like the first time that the first scene I think with him, like it shows him in the bed and like their conversation. It seemed to me that the bed was supposed to reduce his pain. So like I thought like, okay, like he's one of the few people that still experiences pain. But then it seemed like later in the movie, because they do the weird surgery sex and obviously the surgery's on him, that he's not experiencing pain. So I don't know.
I think it hurts to have the new organs, but maybe other things don't hurt, and he was growing them at such a rapid rate. And I think also it's painful when you're evolving to eat plastic. It's painful to not eat plastic.
Yeah.
And that's why he was suffering so much. Was because he was refusing to even try it or consider it, and he was removing all the organs that were going to make it easier for him, and if he had left them in there, it would have gotten better. And that's why he was in so much pain. And all the time. Yeah.
That makes sense thematically. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because he is the one that is evolving. It's not like
and all the other
everyone is
plastic
evolving to eat
eaters.
Plastic.
Yeah, because
I don't
literally
think
no
they
one
could eat
else.
regular food.
Yeah, and like no one else showed pain in the entire film. Now that I'm thinking about it, like even the guy who got like drilled in his skull, everyone that's getting cut, like no one winced or had any reaction. Now I'm wondering if during his surgery he was having reactions, like little facial tics or something.
He seemed
like he was enjoying it.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was kind of a sexual experience.
Yeah, he seemed kind of on the fence about the sexuality of it. I don't know. I think his Leia, however you pronounce her name, was definitely more, that was her thing. Like, and Kristen Stewart, although she never
my
got to
God.
fulfill her fantasy of being operated on.
We got to get into the Kristen Stewart thing, because that scene, when she shoves her finger in his mouth, and then like she's staring at her finger
his
like
mouth open.
She doesn't know what to like do with the finger that she just like pried his mouth open with, and then she just like sucks on it really quick. That was the grossest thing
before
ever.
she kisses him. Yeah.
And then,
I agree.
bear in mind, this was all filmed during COVID, so like,
Yeah.
that was huge for someone to do.
That's true.
Because I would never.
I loved every scene with Viggo and Kristen Stewart. Like, their vibes were so opposite, because he's just so like reserved and calm, and like kind of like shy, and like doesn't say much, and he doesn't want to cause any, I don't know. And then her vibe is the complete, just very anxious and very jittery, and
just clinging to her sanity with her fingernails. Yes.
I just could have watched. I could have watched a 2-hour movie with just them two on an adventure together. I loved it.
Honestly, it reminded me of her performance in Twilight. Like, this is what she was maybe wanting to like, the energy she wanted to give off during those movies. Because like she has
almost
all
felt
the
like she
same
was parodying.
tics.
Bella was pretty unhinged if you think about her.
Exactly.
I honestly felt like she was parodying herself. Like, she was like doing like a funny self-parody of what people make fun of her for. I don't know if I would love to, like, for someone to ask her that, if she was thinking that, but that's what it felt like to me. She was just having fun, like hamming up all the eccentricities that people make fun of her for. Like, the stuttering and the just the weird mannerisms and tics, facial
her eyes
tics
were
and stuff.
Always full of tears. Her eyes were always about to overflow. Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
But like the other guy too, the Don McKellar, the other guy, Whippet and Timlin, them two were hilarious. And the way they both like fall in love with Viggo Mortensen near the end, and they're both like vying for his attention and his affection, and I love that. I was really that was the main that was the main thing I was sad about, was that it didn't resolve their plot.
Oh yeah,
I wanted to see something else.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask about that. But I was is this like her performance is like that meme where people are like, I wish someone would look at me like X person, and like she is like, if you could slap her face on one of those memes, it was like, I just want someone to look at me like Kristen Stewart looks at Viggo.
But for real.
Okay, so one thing I'm very confused about is the ending of the surgery with the child, and then I guess
I've been dreading talking about that whole plot, because I couldn't look at the screen for any moment that child was on screen. It was too disturbing for me. It took me completely out of the movie. It's the main reason I rated it 5.5 was because I just can't deal with the cruelty to the kid. I know that's really unoriginal, and it's like a reason for a lot of the complaints about this movie, and I'm just one of those. I just can't handle it. Like this dead child that's a plot point for the whole movie. It was just exhausting. It was just too cringeworthy and painful and unpleasant and disturbing. And I just wanted to look away and wait till it was over every single time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
I think it's a little and we'll talk about, are trying to figure this out, because my headcanon of interpreting that kid, which when I read the Wikipedia summary of the movie and rewatched a scene at the end, I realized that I was totally wrong. But like what I was imagining after I saw the movie was that kid was like a Christ figure. He was like the Immaculate Conception that was like the first. I mean, I guess Viggo Mortensen was too, but I guess the kid was the first one to like fully evolve into being able to naturally eat plastic. And like, you know how like the dad claims that, like he's all natural. Like we don't know, all of them had to have surgery, and the kid was the only one, and they don't know how, he had this power, and he's like this source of like hope. And so I feel like, but then the surgery, they open him up, and all of his organs have tattoos on them.
And they're normal human organs.
Okay,
right?
I guess, but that was ambiguous to me. So like how I interpreted it, that was like a miracle. This is when I was watching it, I was like, oh, like this is like a miracle. There's no way to explain this. Like the kid, obviously, when you see his body, it's like he hasn't been cut open. Like this is the first time he's been cut open, and his organs have like tattoos all over them. Like this is a sign of God. This is like, he's the miracle child. He's like, he's the one, he's the savior. Like he's the Messiah figure, and Saul is witnessing this, and he is like the Saul of the Bible, where this is like his, he sees Christ, and then later he has his own experience. That's his like conversion experience. And I really like that version in my head. But then I read the synopsis, and like in the last scene with the police officer, supposedly the cop says that, oh yeah, we got to the body first, and like we replaced his organs. And that was really not satisfying to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, that was all really confusing and kind of awkwardly handled and really poorly explained. Like, because I mean, I don't really know. I don't have a medical background, so I don't know what normal human organs look like. But apparently it was shocking to the whole crowd, or especially to Vigo and to his dad, the kid's dad, that the kid's organs were normal. It wasn't so much the tattoos as it was like he doesn't have like super special, unique, a whole gut full of unique organs like he's supposed to have. And this was supposed to be this revelation that like, here's this highly evolved new human with a new body. And instead he has a normal body. And that's because the police wanted him to have normal organs so that the whole public, the whole community wouldn't find out about how people are evolving. They wanted to repress the plastic eating stuff. Yeah. So it just reduced the spectacle or the impact. And I don't know why they had the dad killed, or why the techs that work on the organic stuff were the ones that were the assassins, or who they were affiliated with. It all just felt like I was bored and annoyed by the heavy-handedness of the world building and the exhibition. And then suddenly I really needed it and really wanted an explanation, and there was none. So it's just like, where did these people come from? Who exactly did this? Why exactly? It just felt like very offhandedly, like one sentence explained, and if you weren't paying attention, you miss it. And it was all, you were supposed to just understand it visually, but I think it was really hard to understand visually. And I just felt like the whole stuff with the kid was just bad. Not bad. Hard to watch. Painful, sad, distasteful, ugly, depressing. And then the emotional weight that it was supposed to carry didn't land because they didn't explain it well enough.
It would have been better almost if they had cut him open and there were just no organs inside. Or it was replaced with something like obviously fake, And that would have made it really clear to me that this was like someone who did this. But because it was organs, and also because the title credits showed like the very beginning of the movie, it was showing like all these what looked like internal organs with tattoos on them. And so I don't know, I guess that sort of like primed me for some reason to think of that, and like to think that maybe that could be something natural or something that was a miracle, I guess is how I interpreted it. But
But wasn't that like Leia's whole thing? Was she tattooed the organs before she removed them? And that was part of her art, was the tattoos? Yeah. She was like an organ tattooist.
Yeah, and didn't those other two do that also?
Or they had a catalog of other beautiful tattoos that was kind of part of their collection, was beautiful organ tattoos. I don't know. Yeah, it was all very strange and confusing.
And then kind of like during the performance, she kind of turns it like I rewatched the scene tonight just really briefly, where she was like saying, I don't know, she seemed really sad about it, and then she kind of turns it around to say, like, what the lines I wrote down were like, the world is killing our children from the inside out. The ugliness of the world has seeped in. Like, so how was she interpreting it? I was kind of confused.
I mean,
by
I
that.
think
like,
she knew what the goal was to uncover this totally unique human body that's evolved and natural, and he was supposed to be this miracle child. And then, like a good performance artist does, when they opened him up and it wasn't that, she found a way to spin it real quick because she's good at improvising. She's good at her job. So she thought on her feet, and she spun it a different way that still landed for the crowd.
I wonder if that's kind of like a little mini metaphor of how, you know, something happens to kids or just people in general, and then the spinning that happens like narratively with governments or society, where they're like, oh, it was actually something else wrong with him, and they're like hiding the internal things that cause whatever tragedy to actually happen, and they cover it with
systemic
excuses.
stuff.
Whether it's like violence or other things like that, you know, they'll be like, well, blame this thing, blame that thing. And it's like they're making those things internal in someone who's already passed. And it's like, why are these people explaining for someone who isn't even present? And then the people who are trying to just let their body speak end up being silenced, like these characters were.
And they're like criminalizing people, but really they're the ones that are causing the problems, like by resisting change. Yeah. You could make a lot of metaphors with that.
Oh my gosh.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, it's muddy.
One thing I wanted to bring up, because I thought this was funny and just just the weirdest like idea ever, was the inner beauty contest, and like how he was nominated for like best organ.
Best in show.
I fell asleep around that part of the movie, and I think like
oh my god,
reawoken, and I was like, what beauty contest, best organ? So,
I love that was hilarious. The inner beauty contest.
That was
the zipper.
Yeah, another thing that seemed like it went on for a really long time and didn't really go anywhere. It was just an exploration of this subculture in this world, where it was kind of more of a part of like, I want to be finding out more about the plastic eating people. Who cares about this weird guy that does beauty contests? But it was also funny and charming in a very yeah.
I think that it seemed mostly a way of like. Well, at least in that last scene, mostly a way of the one of the archivist guy to just flirt with him. Like, it's really weird. Like, that was the whole point of the inner beauty contest. And him, I don't know. It was. I mean, that scene was hilarious. Like him trying to lead him into a room. He was like, "Come in here," and like Viggo Mortensen was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna go in there with you. I don't know where you're leading me." It's hilarious.
Okay, so that's what the zipper thing was, right? Was for this contest or something? Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so they could open him up and look at it. Yeah.
Right.
And the conflict in the plot with the inner beauty contest and why she didn't really want him to do it was because you're supposedly supposed to keep your organ and be proud of it when it's an inner beauty. Like all the other inner beauty people kept their organs, and it was like, but we're going to remove yours. This is going to conflict with my act. You can't keep it. We have to remove it for our act. And he was like, well, after I win, it's, then who cares? I just got to win first, and then we can go back to our act. And so it was this weird, like, competing artists conflict thing. Like, I don't even know.
And then, like, what was with their relationship? Like, it seemed like it was starting to break apart. Like, it seemed like she was sort of cheating on him, or maybe they just had like sort of like an open relationship. Because it's weird.
Well, he had a typical dude, like, she's not my girlfriend moment at the very beginning, where it's like, like he seemed very uncomfortable with identifying her as anything other than his assistant. And she seemed
when
like
was that?
at the very beginning when she first meets Kristen Stewart and other guy.
Yeah.
And they're like, who exactly is she to you? Because like Kristen Stewart's already
I remember that
macking on him real hard.
Like immediately meet you.
Yeah. And he just does like a very kind of basic bro, like, she's not my girlfriend, she's my assistant kind of reaction. Yeah. And I felt like she wanted to be more than that the whole movie and really loved him, and he was really standoffish the whole time. And that moment where they both got surgery on each other together was like, it meant a lot to her and was really, really tender, strangely, to her, because he was actually showing affection for the first time, maybe.
That's true.
And what a weird...
Oh, yeah, that scene. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I love that. I secretly love that scene because it's just like the way the machine... Well, first of all, like the little fleshy controller. Like, I love that.
It looks like a little frog.
That little frog thing. Yeah.
And it's like they can control it, but also it has a mind of its own. So, like, it sometimes just does stuff on its own, like they mention. And, you know, because when they're having sex, like, they just leave it alone. And the scalpels and stuff are still moving and like just cutting them kind of randomly, just little small cuts. And it's like, oh man, that's so disturbing, but strangely like satisfying or like makes sense in a really weird way. It's a really cool scene.
Yeah, and that was something I think we had talked about, Anthony and I, off mic, was like, what is the healing factor of these people? Because like we see her get that huge cut across her chest, and then she has no scars at all later in the movie.
Yeah.
And you know, Viggo, he's had so many surgeries, and yet he seems to be fairly undamaged. And so it's like, is rapid healing a part of these mutations? But then why do some people have massive scars and scarification is a thing in the society? That was confusing. Yeah. That was a problem.
For sure.
Viggo did have some scars, but maybe I guess you could chalk it up to the autopsy machine was just so precise and exact that it would just zip up, you know, his wounds really well. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
I do love how Cronenberg frames all his weird sexual stuff. Like it never feels like, I don't know, it feels like intensely sexualized, but then also like it's infused with the tech, so it doesn't feel like just straight up pornographic. It feels weird and different and more uncomfortable than that. But then like even that moment still felt very tender, just because it felt like we were feeling what Leia's character was feeling during that moment. So like he has a weird way of handling that. Like even in like Videodrome, having the weird TV stuff, you know, like it felt like a person, or like it was emoting what you would imagine something would emote during a sexual escapade or whatever.
The only like gratuitous thing I would say, like nudity sex wise, was like the two techs just randomly getting horny and naked when they showed up. Didn't make any sense. I was a little like
machine.
Yeah, I was a little embarrassed for those actresses. Like, is that really necessary, this scene? I don't know. I guess they were just so big fans of her or those machines. They're just really in love with those machines, basically. You know, that's it. Like, that's their fetish, is those machines. And that, to me, that explains why they killed that guy in the end, because they're so involved, and I'm sure they're making money off of all these machines and like repairing the machines, that like that's their interest. So they also want to shut down anyone that is pro evolution, because it's kind of like their business. That's how I interpreted that.
Interesting. Yeah, but more about Viggo and Leia's relationship. At the very, very end, when they're both moaning and you can't see them yet, I thought in that... Because do you remember that? Like, he's moaning because he's suffering, and I don't know why she's moaning, but I thought they really were having sex at the end. And it was going to be like some kind of weird thing where it was like... maybe he's now going to try for another super special mutant child if he has this mutation ability. And that's like their plan now, like after the failed surgery and the murders, and he's like decided to go full native turncoat and like be a part of the plastic eaters, and so they're trying for a kid now. Was actually, but then they were separate. He was in the floor, he had fallen out of his bed and was in pain, and that's why he was moaning. And I'm not clear why she was over on her pallet also moaning. And then she kind of wakes up and crawls over to him.
Oh,
and
yeah.
helps him to the and helps him to the breakfaster chair, and he has his, revelation moment with the purple chocolate bar. But yeah, I just thought that was also weird. Like, what is this scene where they're like moaning in their sleep at each other? Like, is this as intimate as they ever get? Like, what is this?
Man,
Yeah.
that totally went over my head. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have to watch that again.
Yeah.
Dude, no idea. I know why he was moaning, but yeah, I don't know about her.
Do they even say, like, if he has dreams or nightmares on that bed? Was that something, or am I imagining that?
I thought he did have dreams.
Okay.
I do think they say something about dreams, but I don't remember exactly what.
I wonder if they were, like, they could have connective dreams or something. If that kind of tech was available. That'd be interesting. But yeah, I guess one major thing we haven't talked about is the line. I'm noticing that Cronenberg always has like a line that is repeated consistently throughout his films. Like Videodrome, it was what was it? Something is the new body, or I forgot.
Oh God, yeah, Videodrome. Something about the new flesh.
The new something is the new flesh. But here it's surgery is the new sex, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like. What do y'all interpret that as? Like, is it literally just surgery is the new sex, or is it like a metaphor for something that we're doing?
I don't know.
think
That
it's
was
just
kind of a
people-
shrug.
People being so bored, like it kind of does make sense a little bit. Like humans get very easily bored, so like if everyone just stopped feeling any kind of pain, it's
Can
you
they
have to
also
fill
not
it
feel
with something.
pleasure? Is it like
That's what that was unclear, but it seemed like they could still feel pleasure or sensations, but it was like less because maybe it was like because they couldn't feel pain, they couldn't feel strong pleasure either. So it was just they could just feel sensations. Like he describes what it feels like. Like he describes how his throat feels. It's just kind of sort of uncomfortable but not painful. And yeah, so I guess they have to add something to it. Like humans always have to go to the extreme. They get bored with something and they have to amp it up to make it exciting again. And so they have to like cut themselves open. Like that's normal sex just probably isn't enough sensation anymore. So they've got to like literally cut into each other, and that creates enough sensation for them to feel intimate. So it sort of makes sense. But yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting line.
I didn't-
You
yeah.
didn't like it?
I didn't think very hard about it. I was just like, yeah, okay, that's what this subculture's into. Cool, whatever. Yeah, I didn't read anything into it, but probably should have. Probably it was a central idea that I was just like, meh.
Well, yeah, that's what I was trying
Well.
to like think of, because in Videodrome, the new flesh is very, very relevant to the entire narrative, like with the TVs and stuff. So I was like, I don't know. I feel like there's two contradicting ideas in here, which is the plastic eating, and then there's the painless existence of humanity. And the surgery is the new sex fits that one, but like we don't get a line for the plastic eaters, or like that idea or concept that he's trying to like metaphoricalize. That's not a word. Or whatever that he's trying to like draw parallels of our current time. The thing that I kept thinking is like maybe he means sex not only as the pleasure thing, but like as humans, that's kind of our like automatic, well, not automatic, but that's like a desire point in our lives, like is to reproduce. So like if you take it more as surgery is the new reproduction, maybe it's more of a like how they were cutting themselves to prevent evolution. Like the stalling of evolution is now the reproduction of humanity or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about it way too much.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or okay, like how sex is for pleasure, but also reproduction, and like surgery is kind of like the way they were treating surgery. It's like to prevent evolution, to like
Oh, so
prevent
it's
the natural process of
anti-reproduction.
things. So it's like, yeah, kind of like how people treat sex, just for pleasure. And yeah, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
thought of that off the top of my head. So I don't know if that's, I think it's more just the people getting bored, and humans do that. Like, it's like if suddenly humans all lost all sensation,
Yeah.
they would get really bored and they would have to do extreme things in order to feel again.
All right. So, did y'all have any other major things to talk about?
My one hot take that I had after watching this, that I texted my brother and he was like, you can't say that. You're not a Cronenberg expert. You can't make a broad point like that. But I was like, he's like less fun Gilliam, because I love Terry Gilliam, the director, and he does a lot of the same things, like social commentary, weird tech, dystopian futures, gross violence, strange behaving people, kind of illogical, emotional situations, all of it. And I like Gilliam more. I've grown up with Gilliam, and I feel like if that breakfaster chair was in a Gilliam movie, it would have been played entirely for laughs, and one of them would have malfunctioned and ripped someone apart.
Oh my God, like broken their spine.
Yeah, like, or it just would have been like, there would have been a scene with like a whole family, kids and adults, all sitting in those things being shaken around and having like baby food smeared on their face. Like, Gilliam is just so fun and silly and playful with his dystopian futures. And I'm way more into that vibe than this. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, this seemed very dark and heavy, and you got to take this seriously, and this is sinister. And all I wanted to do was laugh at it. Maybe because I'm so indoctrinated into the worldview of Terry Gilliam that maybe that's why I struggled with this. And it's probably entirely too reductive to compare those two filmmakers so closely. But that was kind of like, I wished I was watching a Terry Gilliam movie while I was watching this.
Yeah.
It was kind of something I went through.
That's an interesting comparison, though. I would have never thought of that comparison, but it makes a lot of sense. It is. It's like they're like opposite sides of a coin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, The Fly. Maybe you should watch The Fly, because I feel like that's David Cronenberg's like most lighthearted body horror movie. It's very like not this vibe. It's lighthearted. It's supposed to be funny and kind of silly, but the body horror is still horrifying.
Yeah.
But it's more played for laughs, I guess. So
Yeah.
he can do that, but I think he does like the serious vibes.
I still just can't figure out where to land on this movie. Like,
yeah.
was it funny? Was it too dark? What was the intention?
Yeah.
It's kind of, I'm just still stuck on that, and I can't land anywhere. So that's my final thought.
Okay. Did you have any final thoughts, David?
I don't know. I would like to watch this movie again, because I feel like a lot of the writing too, there were a lot of good lines in this movie that I cannot remember. But if I watched it again,
Yeah.
I think it was well written, even if it was very exposition heavy at times. There were a lot of really snappy lines in it that I would like to experience again. Even talking about it more makes me like it more.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something that I also want to rewatch. And maybe for Helen, like maybe if you were to watch this movie alone or in a very limited like people capacity, someone you would feel comfortable laughing with, then you could have a riot. Because I do remember the tension in the theater being tense. You know, there's a dude passed out, kids in there, and then like all these like intellectuals. You know, I could feel their intellectual energy raining down upon us.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there choking back laughter the whole movie.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this episode of Cineverm. We would be grateful and humbled if you could leave us a review or rating with your thoughts or comments on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and if you could share us with your friends or family, as that helps us in our journey to spread the love of cinema. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
See ya.
Cinema.